Welcome everyone to another video, and it's a really exciting one today. We're going to be talking about the use of drones for inspection of critical infrastructure. So this may include power lines, nuclear power plants, offshore oil and gas platforms, offshore wind, and many others. So in this video, we'll be discussing how drones are revolutionizing the way that we are inspecting these structures and facilities, and how they're making inspections faster, safer, and more cost effective. So first up, let's talk about power line inspection. The traditional method of inspecting power lines is by sending workers up in a helicopter or by using cranes to access the lines. Not only is this time consuming and expensive to do, especially when you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of kilometers of these power lines, it's also risky for the workers involved. There might be high voltage power lines, and there's obviously risk there of electrical shock, or there may be an impact from having to switch off the power for this safe inspection of those lines. However, using drones, we can inspect power lines without the need for a human to go up there. So drones can fly around power lines, they can capture high quality images, video, and other data of the lines and of the support towers and other surrounding infrastructure from all angles. The footage can then be used to identify and react to any faults or issues that have occurred and allowing repair to happen. They can also be used for proactive maintenance. So you can use drones, you can inspect an asset regularly to identify when parts are likely to fail or when there's signs of wear and damage, therefore reducing the likelihood of blackouts or power cuts from equipment failure. Also, drones can be used for building inspections. So we're talking here about national critical infrastructure. So you might have power stations, you might have secure facilities, you might have construction projects. And previously, these building inspections would have been done by inspectors on the ground using maybe binoculars or ladders or scaffold to access higher up the facade and onto the roofs of buildings. With that, there's inherent health and safety concerns from working at height, or manually climbing up and down ladders and scaffolding. And it's also a very time consuming process. If you think you've got a large construction site or a large building, it can take a long time to inspect all of that, and especially some buildings may not have safe access to the roof areas, so that might mean you're not able to inspect it at all. Now, with drones, you're able to get a bird's eye view of your roof, of your structure, to allow you to complete that full inspection, understand the condition of the building, understand kind of area any parts that are looking like they're likely to fail, structural issues, damages, and so on, without putting human in harm's way. So it's really, really beneficial from that perspective. Now, if we look offshore, drones are being used for the inspection of offshore wind turbines. So um, offshore, it's a harsh environment. There's high winds, there's salts, there's water, and all of this means that wind turbines generating electricity offshore um, succumb to wear and damage, and parts need to be replaced. Now, there's obviously a high reliance on the electricity that's produced from these assets, not to mention the more electricity that we can produce from renewable sources like wind, the less coal and other fossil fuels we need to burn to generate electricity. So, um, in the past, inspections of large wind turbines may have been done by helicopter, flying around with a high power camera to capture capture details, or by a human walking up many thousands of steps through the core of the turbine to inspect it from the top, which obviously has health and safety concerns from working so high above the ground. Now, you can use drones to fly around the structure much like you would for a power line or a building, capturing very high resolution data that can then be assessed, and you can understand from that whether you need to take any maintenance or whether there's any defects within the wind turbine. The benefits of this is that you can also use it for predictive maintenance, to identify parts that might need to be replaced before they fail, therefore increasing the uptime of your asset and ensuring that it's generating clean electricity more of the time. You've obviously got a huge health and safety improvement there as well, from the removal of people from that area. Now, another example of inspection using drones for critical infrastructure is power stations. So much like wind, they're extremely important to ensure that the light stays on and that the country's functioning and has the power it needs. The example I'm going to talk about in this video is the use of drones to inspect new nuclear power station construction projects. So these projects have thousands of people working on site. They're very, very dynamic, changing sites, and they're also working to very tight deadlines for construction. So the ability to take routine inspection surveys using drones is extremely helpful here, because you can avoid, again, the need for people to go up and work at height to inspect and understand the status of buildings and the status of construction, but you can also speed up the process from that. Now, just one thing finally to add: the use of drones for critical infrastructure inspections is becoming more and more widespread now, as there's more drones available on the market. There's more pilots available to fly them. Companies and organizations are seeing the benefits that drones bring and adopting that technology more and more and more. One last thing to add is that drones are becoming more automated, meaning that they can be flown remotely without the need for a pilot on site watching and flying the drone. So this operation is called beyond the visual line of sight, where the remote pilot may be stationed anywhere in the world, monitoring through a remote operation center. The drones may be operated from a docking station, which will be a weatherproof environment where they're stored and charged when they're not in use, and they can be launched remotely from there. And they use advanced sensors, artificial intelligence to help them navigate obstacles safely, and ensuring that they can fly and operate and conduct those inspections without the need for human intervention. So this type of technology is especially relevant for the inspection of critical infrastructure, where you have complexities like you want to keep these facilities secure, so the less people on site the better, or you might have remote facilities, whether that's a nuclear power station that is hundreds of miles or a long way from the nearest towns and cities, or offshore wind facilities that may be tens if not hundreds of miles out to sea. So that can be especially useful for those hard to reach areas. And there you have it. Drones are revolutionizing the way that we inspect critical infrastructure, from power lines to offshore wind turbines. They're faster, they're safer, they're more cost effective than traditional methods, and they're providing us with really valuable data that can help us predict and prevent potential issues with those assets. Also, with the rise of remote automation systems like remote docking stations and more artificial intelligence when it comes to obstacle avoidance and remote operation, drones can be used to inspect national critical infrastructure without the need for a pilot on site, furthering the safety enhancements and the cost savings as well. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.